How are you guys doing? This is Ryan. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to talk about the cryptocurrency bull market and really talk about this chart here called the hype cycle curve and really try to figure out where are we in this curve. The hype cycle is a branded graphical presentation developed and used by the American Research Advisory and information technology firm Gartner. It represents the maturity, adoption, and social application of specific technologies. So this is really good to use for kind of understanding the volatility and nature of these cryptocurrency bull markets, euphoria that occurs. And I really want to go through it and compare this to some other charts to really understand where are we, where we're likely to go, and make sure we're ready for both outcomes. Are we in the left side of the chart here, this bear trap, or are we on the right side in a bull trap? So it's very important to know. Before we jump deep into this video, if you do enjoy it, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. It helps this channel grow and reach a broader audience. And if you want to see more content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and tap that notification bell so YouTube notifies you every time I upload a video, which is every week. So with that said, let's jump into it. Please also note that this is not financial advice. This is just my own research for education and entertainment purposes only. Please make sure you do your own research before investing any of your own money. Just don't follow some person on YouTube. But I do want to talk about the left side of the screen and compare it to the right side of the screen. The market has pulled back essentially from 2.5 trillion down to 1.5 trillion, and we're either in a bear trap or a bull trap. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. We're going to use two other charts to reflect the market prices of Bitcoin in the overall market and try to decide if this looks like a bear trap or a bull trap and compare it with this hype cycle curve to better forecast this market. Now, I do want to say I use cryptocurrency. I have a certain amount that I hold through every market, but I do allow my portfolio to become over allocated in bull markets. And so I do have an interest of taking profits and getting back into the bear market and buying a lot more as a way to grow my wealth. That's why I have such a strong interest in understanding the volatile nature of the market. So let's start on the left side of the hype cycle, where we start off with the stealth phase, where you have smart money jumping in, and the market takes off and accelerates into the institutional investors, and they call this the awareness phase. And you get this major run up, and then you get this sell off, which brings us into a bear trap. So the question is, are we in a bear trap? But one thing that does concern me is that if you follow up after the bear trap, you see media attention, enthusiasm, greed, delusion, and then eventually a new paradigm. So I do think if we look at this chart and we look at the smart money institutional side, it looks like the Trello chart here that tracks the Bitcoin price is following kind of smooth takeoff. We don't see any real sharp pullbacks that pull us into a bear trap. But I do feel like the market did run into media frenzy, overly enthusiastic. You saw coins like CumRocket and other silly coins go up really high. But I have to say, I don't think we reached a new paradigm phase. So I don't know if we were quite there. I don't know if that was just the awareness phase taking place, but it's something to pay attention to. Were we all the way up there? Were people being extremely greedy? There definitely was some of that, but we didn't get a major sell-off like we see today. So we never really had a bear trap play out, in my opinion. And these could just be attributed to the awareness phase. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Did we reach the mania phase? And it's definitely a possibility that we have hit the mania phase and we blew off the top, and 64,000 was the top for Bitcoin. The let's say $7 trillion market cap was the top. I want to talk about reasons why I don't think that is the probability, even though it is a possibility. And there's a couple reasons why I feel like it's probable that the price goes much higher, and what we think is euphoric now is going to look silly towards the end of the year. And the first reason really is because a $64,000 Bitcoin is not that big of a parabolic run for Bitcoin, because traditionally Bitcoin has done much higher highs past its previous all-time high. So the first time Bitcoin went up like 34x past its all-time high, and then during the last bull cycle it went up 17x past its all-time high. That was in 2017, around $20,000. So if we only went to 64,000, that's only a 3x. And that makes it a very weak bull market, one that doesn't even really make it worth trading around, taking profits and buying back later. You might as well hodl your crypto because Bitcoin has also never retraced its previous all-time high. So it's very unlikely that it would retrace its 2017 all-time high of $20,000. The mania brings in so many long-term investors that will hold the coins forever. And also the cryptocurrency market has gone through a halving cycle, so the supply of Bitcoins in the market is less. It makes it much more difficult for the market to continue falling. So I think a lot of us crypto investors can withstand another 20%, 30%, drawback price from here. And given prior trends that the market usually goes a lot more parabolic, makes the risk to reward ratio so favorable to hold your coins that we could go much, much higher given previous trends. So the way I look at it is if Bitcoin did a 17x in its last bull market, it's likely going to do like an 8x during this bull market. So I think you would see like $150,000 Bitcoin at the top. So that leaves you like a 400% return on the upside with a downside risk of roughly 20 to 30%. And it leaves the probability that something crazy at the end of the year is going to happen. And that brings me to my next point. My next point is that the seasonality of these crypto bull market blow off the top all-time high always happens around January or at the end of the year. Look at 2013 here. Look at 2017. It makes it probable for crypto to do a similar thing this time. Then also, if you look at this time of the year, around April, May, June, we do kind of get these pullbacks where the market will make this huge run up, sell off, go into the bear trap, consolidate for a few months, wake up in the fall, and then start running again. Prior trends are important, and market cycles, they don't act exactly the same, but they really tend to rhyme. They sound and look and feel similar. So even though it feels like we could have reached a mania phase during this run up, it's actually probable that things could get a lot crazier. We're already seeing countries adopt this as a national currency, and this could be opening the floodgates for every corporation having interest. You could see some very crazy things occur at the end of this year that would justify a market cap of cryptocurrency over $5 trillion and a Bitcoin price of 150,000. I bring up the Bitcoin price because it controls so much of the market and it's worth mentioning the narrative of the overall market. But I have most of my investments in things like Ethereum and Bitcoin Cash and Cardano. But when you're talking about the general market trend, it's hard not to talk about Bitcoin. Now, moving on to the right side of the hype cycle curve, you have to look and say there is a possibility that we have hit an all-time high and now we are going into a bear market, and this could be quite painful. Even though I don't think this is probability, I think you have to say it's a possibility. And if you're sitting on profits, it's worth taking some home with you in case you do go into a bear market, or at least in my opinion. But also taking too much profit will make you really miss out on amazing gains if the probability I'm talking about is correct and we're nowhere near the all-time high and we're instead in a bear trap. And if you look at the hype cycle phase and you see how violent this thing can fall after it blows off the top, it actually goes below the mean trend line on this graph at least. So things can get very painful, and these crypto bear markets can typically last around 3 years. So you really have to ask yourself opportunity cost. Is a lot of my money best sitting in crypto and waiting 3 years for a return? I would argue having some money in the crypto market is a good thing pretty much at all times, but how much you're allocated is what I look out for. Mark DeMessel, in a recent video he did, I'll link his channel in the description below, talked about how crypto really isn't as risky as maybe people think. And therefore, holding something like this into the bear market, you will probably be okay in the long term. And the analogy he used is if you were in Soviet Russia back when it was a communist country and they finally started to open up the market and they allowed people to own private businesses, how much of a disparity there was between something that was monopolized by the government, let's say like a restaurant, giving away free food to people, and then a private restaurant that was actually serving food and selling it, having such higher quality and a better user experience, and overall have their customers benefit more from coming to their establishment than go into the not so good government restaurant and getting free food. This is a really good analogy for cryptocurrency because you have a market that's been monopolized by governments. With currency, now you finally have a free market that can go in and change it and evolve it and create so much competition with better technology and that are competing to serve people's interests, and therefore will be a much better currency than anything a government could possibly create. So if we are going into a bear market, at least you're holding on to an asset class that has such lousy government competitors, and in the long term, you're likely to be okay. But the bear market could be painful, and for now, you're just gonna be in it for the technology and maybe not just the mania. But me personally, I don't think this is a probability. I do have large profits I'm sitting on because I bought a lot in the bear market. So what I have to ask myself is, how much of my wealth do I want allocated to crypto? And I could use something like the Kelly formula. I've made a video about it before. I'll put a card above and I'll link in the description below, but it's essentially a mathematical formula that says what is the probability of outcome and the rate of return. So I would say the probability of outcome that we're still in a bull market and we make a higher high around that January time of actually going into next year, December this year, is probably around 70%. And I think the rate of return is somewhere from 300 to 400%. So that would be roughly 350%. So using the Kelly formula, again, go watch that video. That's how much of my wealth I want in crypto. And the Kelly formula is a way to essentially optimize your returns and remove the human emotional element outside of it. And the more times you can do that with your money and your investing, the probably better off you're going to be, because human emotions are not very useful for investing. You know, investing when things are really tough and fearful is not always easy to do. And throughout history, that's usually like the best time to invest. But you have to really do your own research and due diligence and really go with your conviction and try to understand where you are on this hype cycle curve. How much of your wealth do you want in this asset class? How much do you believe in this asset class? Which projects do you think are likely to do the best in this cycle and just generally in the future? And be responsible for your own money. But that's all I got for this week, guys. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe for future content, and I'll see you in my next one.